In this lesson, we are going to see a little bit about search and how you can use it. We are not going to explain all the query syntax in all the details, but you'll get some idea in how you can use the searches. So, we are starting again at the OMS portal. We can see here that we have two tiles that are being shown with the agent health solution that we installed. We can see here that if you click here, you can go to the My Dashboard, or you can go to the solution gallery in order to install more solutions. You can also see on the usage how much space you are using over time, etc. But for now, we are just going to use log search in order to execute a query. On this screen, you can execute the queries and visualize its results. You can see when you start, there is some examples of queries. For example, there is a query that says type equal event computer. That basically means that will show you all the events of type event computer. And if you do the in, it will search on a search group of machines, only machines that have an update classification with critical updates grouped by computer. There are also a few queries here that you can click that will be automatically open that represent some common queries that are executed on the system, just as examples. So you are free to use them or use your own. Let's start with the easiest query there is, that is a star, that basically searches for everything. We can see here on the results that the results are of type list or of type table or matrix. This is contextual and depends on the query you have made. For example, if you are running a query with application insights data, an application insights tab would appear here and you could click it to see it. For now, let's just click on the table to see the results as a tabular data. So you can see here all the results that we have, and as we scroll, more results will be loaded if needed. The query, even if we have not specified the time range, it always executed with the range that is selected on this drop-down. If I want, I can say, for example, I just want the results by the last 6 hours in order to reduce my results, or I could put a filter specifically on my query. But for now, this is simple, and you can see here that the number of results have been reduced. We also have a filter bar with the distribution by time that basically shows how much results you have by time in the last 6 hours. So the results concentrate on the last hour, since basically we installed the workspace a few minutes ago on the previous lessons. Here we also have the quick filters that we can, for example, select if you want to filter the data. If I would select apply, the query would be automatically written and 2 filters would be added in order to just show the performance and the heartbeat. For example, let's click apply, and you can see here that is only searching data of type performance or type heartbeat. But let's go back to our star query. And see, for example, that if you want to filter by date and reduce the dates, we can just move the slider here to see less data. So you can see here now the bar is more refined, and each time bar represents 1 minute. So we could continue drilling down in order to get more content information. And you can see here that the types are the same, but the number of counters may have changed or not, depending on the data we are querying. But for example, let's see the matrix. It shows a different thing. If the table shows tabular data, the matrix will automatically show for grouped by computer and counter all the graphs already. So the graphs represent the change over time, and notice that we didn't write any query. The system was clever enough to determine that. So it is basically showing the kind of metrics that can be shown. So it inferred that for us. If we click on one of the dates, of the charts, it will be expanded so we can see the details, for example. So we can, for example, let's look now at performance data. So we say type equals performance. We can see here on the preview that are already almost 22,000 results. And you can see also here there is a history of queries that have been executed recently. Let's just click to execute the search, and let's go to the tabular data. Here on the quick filter, some things have been added, but perhaps we want something else. So we can click on the head here, for example, and you want to see the source system where this came from. So we just had it here. And now we can see here that the source system has been added to this filter if you want to search. Perhaps this is interesting, but this is too much information for us, and we only care about, for example, if you go on the charts, we can see here we have the memory, we have the memory for the Linux machines, we have the processor time, we have a lot, but this is too much information, and perhaps we want to drill down on one of them. So if we click here, the filter, we can see that the query has been rewritten in order to show us the processor time for the Linux machine. Let's remove a few stuff from the query because we want the counter name, and perhaps there are other machines that interest us besides the Linux. So by selecting the counter name, percentage processor time, you can see here that we now have the data for the Linux and for the Windows machines. If this is important for us, we can favor this query. For example, we can find here on the favorites queries that have been already pre-made and included in OMS. Those are the ones you cannot change, but there are your own queries that you can add here. For that, you just go to the save and say, for example, performance or CPU time. Let's add a category. This is free, so we can do whatever you want. Let's call it performance. We don't want to save this query as a computer group. And now we do a save. Okay. Now the query is saved, and if later on we want to get it, we just go to the favorites and see that our new saved query is here, so we can choose it. But now let's do a different query. And for example, to show us all the performance counters that exist. What we are doing here, using the measure command that aggregates the data, we want to know the number of occurrences by counter name. Let's click here and see how many there are. As you can see, there are a lot of data being collected by the performance. We can see here there is a lot of network, there is a lot of disk use space, and here the free space, since we previously collected less frequent information, there is less information. And now let's just click on processor time. So we want to see the processor time. And now we want to go to see how processor time evolves over time. So now we go to the metrics, for example, and this is good enough for us. And we can see here how the processor time evolves. But perhaps we want a little more, so we measure the average value of processor time grouped by computer over an interval of 5 minutes. So this is the average time per each 5 minutes. We can see here that, for example, the Linux machine has been doing nothing all the time, and the Windows machine had some spikes over time in order to do this. So perhaps you want to filter down to see less data, and we can see here, perhaps I show it too much, but we can see here that over some periods the Linux machine had a little CPU, but not that much, and then the Windows machine gathered up. So we can change the time just by filtering either the bars, or we can go to either smaller details. So this is now no existence, or for example, we can change the type of charts here on the cog. This is not very interesting, so let's go back to the last 6 hours. And we can see here that over the last 6 hours, let's go back again to the last hour. We can see here how the CPU is evolved over time. Let's go back to the line chart, and we can see here that there are some spikes, but overall, the CPUs of the machines, especially the Windows one, is predictable, and it's okay. So these are some easy ways to query your data, to visualize it either in tabular data or as charts, so you can see trends. The query language is a little more complicated than what I've shown. You can do a lot of different queries in order to get more data, but you can read the entire course to see what kind of queries you can perform, or read the documentation to see even more queries. Hopefully, this has gave you an idea of the power of the analytics and of kind of queries that you can perform easily.